IVM.
There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the survey.
News Kids on the Block. I bring to you stories that top the nation's papers. Fresh from the IVM and SN International School Desk. Hi, I'm Kavya.
And I'm Anya. And welcome back to this week's episode of News Kids on the Block.
Trivik will not be able to join us today, so it'll just be me and Anya. And I hand it over to Anya to kick us off with the first story for the day.
So the first story that we have for you today is about the heat waves that have just swept India away. So currently India is undergoing a heat wave, which explains why it's just so hot and you're so tired all the time. And this heat wave has broken records and it is bringing dangerously high temperatures across both India and Pakistan of over 40 degrees Celsius. And it's expected to get even worse, according to earthsky.org. The heat wave began in March, towards the end of March. And even though, often it'll get really hot and humid before the monsoon, so it's not uncommon. This particular one has just been really bad. The average temperature in March has been 33 degrees Celsius, which is the warmest March recorded since they started making records of this in 1902, Kavya. So, and of course, in part, this is all due to global warming and climate change and all of these other things. But just make sure you are staying hydrated and staying indoors and just keeping your cool.
That was pretty interesting how it kind of all comes back to a cycle, because when it's hot because of climate change, we start putting on the AC, and then when the AC is on, it releases more global greenhouse gases, resulting in more global warming. So I think it's pretty interesting how it's just a cycle that is now inescapable.
Yeah, for sure. The next story for you, basically you might have read about some debates that have been going on over Azan in Maharashtra and Karnataka. And essentially, to sum it up by the Free Press Journal, according to the Noise Pollution Regulation and Control Rules of 2000, restrictions on the use of loudspeakers or public address systems include not using one except after obtaining written permission from the authority, and not using loudspeakers/public address system at night between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. except in closed premises for communication within auditoria, conference rooms, community halls, and banquet halls. So essentially what all of this jargon really boils down to is that between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., you're not allowed to hold a boombox outside of your window and blast music really loudly. Now, of course, this is a regulation, and this has been a problem during Ganesh Chaturthi when the processions are going for Visarjan or something like that. The noise will stop after 10 p.m. and sometimes it won't even. There'll be some years for a fact that on the 5th day and the 10th day there will probably be noise. So try to sleep before the noise starts or something like that. And so this has been a debate for a while, and you'll even notice in say an IPL match now after 10 p.m., even though the match goes on till 11, after 10 p.m. they stop the mic and the music and the loudspeaker and stuff. So, but the problem is that currently Azan is basically the call to prayer. So a lot of mosques have loudspeakers where a call to prayer is sort of read out or announced. And there are 5 times in a day that they pray, starting from the earliest one's about 5 in the morning and the latest one can go up to about 9 in the night. And sometimes later even. And so this has become a problem because the Karnataka High Court banned the use of loudspeakers in religious places last year. And now there are currently several right-wing Hindu groups who have been launching campaigns against playing Azan. And the Bangalore City Police have begun to seize microphones that have allegedly defied court orders. In Bangalore alone, according to the Free Press Journal, about 250 mosques have received such notices, and the mosque authorities have started installing devices that keep the sound within a permissible level. Now, this has sort of continued on into Maharashtra, where the ruling party has said that, the law of the land prevails in Maharashtra and the Home Minister will do everything as per the law. But the Maharashtra Minister Dilip Patel took a balanced view of the situation, saying that some people were trying to create a divide in the society. Of course, on the other hand, you have somebody like Raj Thakre, who sort of made these claims that like we will play the Hanuman Chalisa in outside all the mosques that they don't stop. And it's just the whole thing is this like polarization of how religion is used to express parts of a certain community. Now, of course, in this particular case, like the loudspeakers being used, it's being used on both sides of the debate. It's just that right now, as you might know, it's Ramzan, so they tend to hit a little bit more. And this debate comes up like every couple of months, every year. But still, it is a problem. So this row has been going on for a while, and there are currently still court proceedings and policies being made as we speak. It's Eid next Tuesday, which marks the end of Ramzan. And I think that this is just a bit like, if we can make exceptions, for the dhol to play during Visarjan, I think it's okay if there's a call to prayer every once in a while, every day on for like a month. And I don't think that anyone's going out of their way to like play this to like impose something. It's just part of the culture that has been created. But that's just my opinion. Kavya, do you have anything to add?
No, I completely agree. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for finance products and services that can enhance your personal finance experience? Are you looking for a space to talk about your financial product or service? And are you looking for a crisp talk show where the conversation is all about money? Well, your search ends here. Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta and I'm host of the Paisa Paisa podcast, and I invite you for the conversation about your personal finance on each Monday on the IVM Podcast app or the website or on any podcast streaming platforms. See you folks.
Welcome back. You're listening to New Kids on the Block, and I will take us into the next story of the day, which is about one of the biggest deals in the technology world related to Elon Musk taking control of Twitter. He is paying close to $44 billion to acquire this social media network, which is a lot of money. And he announced his takeover bid on April 14th, saying it was his best and final offer. I think what Elon Musk is going to do with Twitter is to make it a lot more based on free speech. He said free speech is the bedrock of a functioning democracy. So I think people are really going to be able to share their opinion, no matter how controversial it may be, without getting penalized for it, which was not the case in the past. He called Twitter the digital town square, where matters vital to the future of humanity are debated. And he said he wants to make Twitter better by enhancing the product with new features, making the algorithms a lot more open to increase trust, and defeating the spam bots while authenticating all humans. And he said Twitter has tremendous potential, which it does. And I think I'm really excited for one to see what he will be able to do with it and transform it into. He tweeted, "I hope even my worst critics remain on Twitter, because that is what free speech means." So I think all of this stuff is just really foreshadowing what his main approach is going to be when it comes to taking control of this ginormous social media platform.
Thanks, Kavya. The next story we have for you today is on the IPL. The 5-time champions, the Mumbai Indians, have become the first team in IPL history to start the season with 8 defeats. And effectively, they have now been kicked out of the tournament. That doesn't mean they're not going to play. It just means that they don't really have, mathematically, they don't have any hope of making it to the playoffs, which is quite sad. But oh, how the heroes have fallen. I personally am not a Mumbai fan, so I'm quite gleeful about this. But I have a lot of Mumbai Indian fans who have told me to be nice, so I will just give you the facts, I think. So a few problems that we've seen have been their openers, where Ishan Kishan and Rohit Sharma, the captain, both of them have been unable to give the team momentum for a while. I think even some of the Mumbai coaching staff during a press conference said that they don't have, that Ishan Kishan has not been able to keep the score, and sort of his work has gone in vain. The second problem that I think a lot of people have seen is Mumbai didn't really have a lot of bowlers going on. Last year, they had Bumrah and Bolt, who kind of took them by storm. But Trent Bolt, the New Zealander, has moved to my personal favorite, the Rajasthan Royals. And Bumrah is just on his own. They were supposed to have Jofra Archer come in, but Jofra Archer hasn't come in yet because he's still injured. So I think they just haven't found the right match or the right playing 11 in these 8 games. And they still have a few games left. But I do feel for them because, I mean, I think it's not even been 2 years technically since they like won their last tournament, because that was in like October, right? Because of COVID. So it's quite shocking. But that being said, like I've really enjoyed some of the cricket that the IPL has had this year. Almost every game has been like, all the matches have just been down to the wire. They've been very exciting. And even if, they haven't been like a last ball high scoring match, we've also had some great games, like when RCB registered the lowest total of the season against the Sunrisers Hyderabad recently. The Gujarat Titans have been putting up some brilliant finishes, especially with Rahul Tewatia and Rashid Khan. I think on the whole, it's just, this tournament is just, it's gotten bigger, it's gotten more exciting, of course, but I think at the end of the day, it is still IPL, and the remaining of the matches of the group stage will be played in Bombay, and then they'll move to Gujarat and Karnataka, last I read, for the playoffs and finals.
And I think in terms of what you said about Mumbai Indians, I'm not their biggest fan, so I can't say I'm disappointed by what is happening. But I do think that with the major auction happening this year, it was kind of like it will take a bit of time for them to adjust to the new team, the new like relationship between all the players and how they will help each other. So I think the season kind of was their way of getting back on track, and I think they are capable of any great thing. So we shall see soon.
Yeah, and I think even for them, technically speaking, they do have like a bit of a home advantage because the games are being played at like Wankhede. So even like at least one or two of their matches will be played there.
Yes, we will take a quick break and we'll be right back on New Skids on the Block.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Storytellers and Storysellers, Vineet speaks to the founding partner of Foxy Moron and Zoom Media, Pratik Gupta. He shares his vision of the future of advertising and content. On The Longest Constitution, Priya explores the constitutional provision of equal pay for equal work. On Tere Mere Rasle, Keshav narrates the tragic love story of Baz Bahadur and Rani Rupmati of Mandu. On All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk discuss tech alliances in the Indo-Pacific. And on Say No to Drama, Chetna enlightens us about karma and its true processes. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, please don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on. And remember, you can always check us out on YouTube. We have a number of channels. You can go to ivmpodcast.com/YouTube to take a look at what those channels are. We're also doing a small listener survey to understand how you respond to our shows and the advertising on the network. We would really, really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it out. It really helps us build better shows for you and understand what you're looking for from advertising and what we can talk to advertisers about who you are. Please go to ivmpodcast.com/survey. It really, really, really would help us out. Thank you so much. And finally, would like to thank our sponsors for the network this week: SBI Life Insurance, India Water Portal, and Jupiter, a digital banking app. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back. You're listening to New Skids on the Block. And the next story I have for you today is a story about, you guessed it, Taylor Swift. Basically, researchers discovered a new millipede species as part of an extensive research project. The lead study author and researcher, Trivik Hariharan, is a very big Swiftie, and he decided to name one of his millipede species Nanaria Swiftie.
That's spelled with a Swift and then AE.
Yeah. I quote, "Her music helped me get through the highs and lows of graduate school. So naming a new millipede species after her is my way of saying thanks," he said in a statement. And I think it's really sweet because while it's like, it's not a huge deal. I think it's these kind of small things that really show your gratitude to these people. And yeah, I think it was just a really sweet story that I wanted to share with you guys. The final story we have for you today is something very interesting. We're going to do like a books versus movie TV show kind of debate about One of Us is Lying. If you guys haven't heard about it, it was originally a book by Karen M. McManus, and then it was recently made into a TV show. So we thought, Anna's not read the book and she's watched the TV show, and I've read the book and not watched the TV show. So we thought we'd have a bit of a discussion about it.
So Kavya, since the book came first, it's a murder mystery, so we're not going to give away too much of the plot. But to just kind of like set the scene, it's based in a high school, and this kid dies in detention, and there were 4 students with him, and the blame gets put on them. And these 4 students are like from 4 different cliques and live very, very different social lives in school. And they sort of work together to get their name clear and work out the mystery. So one of them is Bronwyn Rojas, and she's like the straight A student, wants to go to Yale. Then there's another guy who's Nathaniel, and he's like the bad boy who, like, used to sell drugs. Bear in mind, the TV show at least is 16 plus, by the way. And so he's like one step away from some mistake. And then the third guy is this guy named Cooper. And Cooper is a baseball player, a star pitcher, and he moved from Mississippi, and no one really knows much about his past. And he has this, and then the last is Addison or Addie, who is this sort of cheerleader who's like dating the star football player kind of thing. And the four of them, like, they're from very different things, and they all have a secret. And the boy who died maintained a blog with their secrets. And so basically, with like everyone's secrets. So like everybody technically has a motive to want to kill him. Honestly, I watched the TV show, Kavya, after a really like long time of not watching TV, and I expected it to be like terrible. And like plot and stuff was fine. Like there was some ups, some downs. But what I really liked about the show is Netflix has this tendency to make their teenage shows like really dark, like unnecessarily dark. And I'm not just saying in terms of like content, I'm even saying like literally the production is like dark and ominous. But I felt like this one was like nice. Like I enjoyed it. I didn't feel like I was going to get a nightmare when I went to sleep.
Yeah, I think what I liked about the book, I don't know if the movie was done in the same way, but it was different chapters were from the perspective of one of these four kids. And I think it was really interesting to see how those chapters aligned. They were the kind of chapters that ended on cliffhangers, and like you were kind of waiting to... It was a book that I didn't put down, honestly. And I think what I liked the most, like I said, is how the different chapters and the different stories kind of intersected in a way. And they all in some way connected to each other, which made it more interesting because it made you want to find out what was going on. I would definitely recommend it. It was, like I said, a book that you kind of have to read at one go because it's very hard to stop reading once you start. And if you haven't read the movie, it's the show, I honestly suggest you do that. And if you haven't read the book, go and do that as well.
That's all we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Don't forget to tune in to us every Friday for our fresh take on the news from across the globe.
If you like this episode, don't forget to check out other episodes on the IVM network.
You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and anywhere else. And we'll see you next week. But till then, do share this episode with your folks. Stay safe. And don't forget to do your homework.
What is the workplace and how does your gender and body affect your right at work? Hey, I'm Priya Mirza, and on the Longest Constitution podcast, we critically examine the vision of the Indian Constitution and laws. In season 1, we looked at sex, gender, sexuality in India, and the landmark judgments which transformed our rights as citizens in this country. In season 2, we discussed the laws which shape the workplace and examine how ability, competence, and merit impact us, and much more. Join me, Priya Mirza, every Wednesday only on the IVM Podcast app, website, and all the major podcast streaming platforms.
Habits? Routines? How exactly do they help us get better? Well, to simplify it for you, tune in to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashton Doctor, and I'm going to be here to help you get better daily with some simple, easy-to-do habits that you can easily adapt to your life. So tune in to the Habit Coach podcast from Monday to Friday, because I believe that awesome lives start with awesome habits.